And the show begins now. Here's your host, Audrey Dahlgren.
Happy Monday, everybody. How is it going today? How was your weekend? What was the best part about it? As always, this is the hashtag Monday Motivation Show, and I'm going to share a quote from Oprah Winfrey that I believe is pretty impactful, so here it is. The thing you fear most has no power. Your fear of it is what has the power. Facing the truth will really set you free. I like that one a lot because I think there are some instances in my life where I've given certain situations way too much power. Would come to find out that I didn't deserve any of that, but that is a whole separate conversation. If you have a quote or mantra that you'd like to share, you can always do so by putting it on my Facebook page, The Audrey Dahlgren Show, or on Twitter at Dahlgren Show. And don't forget, you can always listen live to each of my episodes by downloading the Spotlight Radio Network One Touch app. We've got quite a show for you today. There was a lot that happened last week. On Thursday and Friday, the Big Ten held its annual media days to get everybody ready for this upcoming college football season. Nick Mantis and I were in Indianapolis both days. Michigan and Jim Harbaugh spoke on Thursday, while Mel Tucker and Michigan State were featured on Friday. And there's a lot to discuss when it comes to those 2 days in Indy, which we'll get to in the second half hour of the show, because for the first half hour, we are joined in studio by Jeremy Sampson, who was the president and CEO of the Lansing United, just one of the many hats he has worn during his time in Lansing. And you had to announce a very tough decision this last week. Number one, thank you for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It's good to see you again. It's been far too long.
I know, I was going to say that. You know, it's so nice to see you in person.
Right.
Because I really don't know the last time I saw you in person.
It's been far too long.
Yes.
The pandemic has done that, as we were talking about before we came on air, and in too many instances, right? And it's nice to be getting back to our new normal a little bit and being able to do things just like this. So again, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I really think it's important for you to, be here today just because of everything that, transpired last week. Like I mentioned a week ago today, with you having to announce that the Lansing United women's team, this past season was its last. And so, number one, walk people through just how difficult maybe that was for you to have to go through that last week.
Incredibly difficult. I think anytime you make a decision like that, that entity is something that has been a part of a lot of blood, sweat, and tears for myself and family members and close friends for the past 8 years. And whenever you have to say goodbye to something that you've put so much work and so much effort into, it's certainly a decision that I didn't take lightly. And people always say, whether it's, athletes who say they know when it's time to retire, like you just kind of know. And I think I was at peace with the decision because I processed it. I had thought about it for some time, but really felt like I knew that this was the right decision for me at the time.
When did it then start to feel that way for you? Because when you mentioning, athletes might knowing when it's time to retire, or you had an inkling that maybe I need to go in a different direction.
I think last year's season, without having it, kind of started the thought process a little bit. When this entity again plays games May through the middle of July, so the bulk of your summer is really tied up in handling the day-to-day, the games and those things. But there's so much work that has to happen on the front end of that, whether you're hiring interns or sponsors or going to league meetings, whatever that is. There's a lot of time that happens throughout the year. And then again, August, September, you get a little bit of a respite before you really kind of crank things back up again in October. So going through a year where we didn't have games, it kind of dawned on me that, oh, wait, this is really what it's like if your summer isn't that busy. And then going into, as I started to get ready for the 2021 season, it just seemed like a lot more work and a lot less fun. And it had always been just a lot of fun. Like I enjoyed every part of it. And I think that enjoyment for me lessened. So when we started to get ready for the season last fall and then into this year, it just really kind of started to build and snowball from there. And I would say as the season started in May, it was really when I started to say, hey, look, we need to make a decision on this here pretty soon.
Mm-hmm. That's always really tough, too, because, you're a passionate person about everything that you do. So when the passion starts to wane, you kind of know that it's time.
And I think that was the big thing. It really was that going through that process and understanding, I used to really enjoy setting up the interviews, and we would hire between 10 and 20 interns every summer.
Wow.
And as you know, when you're hiring interns, that's a lot of work. And when you're hiring that many, you're probably doing 30 to 35, maybe sometimes even 40 interviews. And that's just time consuming. That's what it is, because you want the best, you want the cream of the crop. And that's really what we look for. So, as I went through that process, again, as you said, the passion seemed to go away a little bit, and it felt a little bit more like a grind.
There were some other factors too. I mean, you were mentioning when Nick came out to interview you at the soccer complex last week, that was one factor, but there were some other situations too, unfortunately, due to COVID, that played somewhat of a role as well.
Yeah.
If you could touch upon those too.
For sure. I mean, in any business decision, there's always an element of the dollars and cents. And as I told Nick, there wasn't one reason that I made this decision. It was really a collection of many different things that were going on. But there's no doubt that COVID and what happened with many of our local businesses had a trickle-down impact on businesses like ours. We really relied heavily on sponsored dollars to drive what it took to put a team on the field each summer. You have a little ticket revenue in there, but really it was the sponsors who would drive the availability to do that. And since we started in 2014, I think it was 7 sponsors who were with me from the beginning, and 5 of those weren't able to come back this year due to COVID reasons. And again, they wanted to participate.
Right.
It was just not the right decision for them and their business, which absolutely respect that, right? So that played a part. Now you can go and find other dollars, but can you find enough? And I think that's, where the rubber ultimately meets the road.
Yeah, everybody went through a very challenging time this last year with COVID, for sure. And, there's one thing that I always point to, and I'm sure that you probably are proud of, but the fact that if you wouldn't have brought Lansing United or founded Lansing United in 2014, I don't think that soccer in our area would be as big as it is today, just because of, bringing that high level, that caliber of soccer that you wanted to bring here back in 2014.
In no way, Audrey, am I in the same stratosphere as Tom Izzo. But people have kind of brought this up before, and sitting in your seat before, when I was a member of the media, I used to listen to Tom get ready for a season or wrap up a season, right? And he had a hard time finding all of the positives. And I say that in a very flattering way, because I think great leaders, people who are really good at their craft, tend to not settle or look back on what they've accomplished. They're always looking forward. They're always looking for, how can I get better, or what's the next thing, or what can we do? So having this end, I guess, has made me step back a little bit and look at the bigger picture of the things that we have accomplished, because when you're in it, you don't focus on those things. You're always focused on, how can we win a championship, or how can we get more people there, or more sponsors, or whatever. So I never looked at it in that way. But now that you have an ability to step back and look at it, I am proud of what we've done with soccer in this area, and being a part of the foundation of where it is today. We're certainly not the be-all, end-all of that, but I certainly recognize that we have had a part in it, and have certainly enjoyed being a part of helping grow the game in this area.
Yeah, and I was wondering, too, how much you had reflected this last week just on everything, because when you announced it, you received so much, not press, but I mean, you received a lot of wonderful messages from people, and I just was curious, too, how you kind of reflected on the week receiving all of that from everybody and what that meant.
And as we kind of talked about before, just I think in life in general, I'm terrible at that. My boss, my current boss, keeps telling me, look at your wins, right? Look at the things that have gone well. And I'm always, I say always, oftentimes I'm looking at what can I do better? So to have messages from so many former players, coaches, interns, was very meaningful to me, and it did make me step back a little bit. And I think the intern piece, Audrey, is the one thing that I never considered going into this. I mean, I knew, we would be helping players first and foremost, and coaches would be a benefactor of that. But we had probably close to 100 interns that learned things about the sports and entertainment business, or how to run a team. I mean, we have people who are now working in the NHL and MLS, and again, we don't take full credit for that. They had to do that, but they got their start with us. It was a building block for them. So having those messages come back, we have a couple that are now in coaching and reached out and said, hey, I wouldn't have the opportunities I have today if it weren't for you giving me a chance with Lansing United. So those things, again, as you receive them, are very meaningful.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you have a lot of memories, I'm sure, too. Do you have, I think of always essentially at first in 2014, that inaugural season, when you guys, the crowd that you had on hand to face Detroit FC for the championship, Great Lakes West Championship. Yeah. And so what other moments do you look back on fondly?
Yeah, that season was incredibly memorable. That game sticks out. I'll let the cat out of the bag that we may have fudged the attendance a little bit that day to say that we had 2,014 fans in 2014. I think our official count that day was like 1,998 or something like that. And I was like, no, we're going to have 2,014. But to have that many people at DeMartin Stadium, to know that there was a championship on the line, the team performed well and won, and then to come back the next weekend and we hosted the regional tournament there, and we won 2 games. The second one, obviously giving us the regional championship, was incredibly meaningful. Anytime you win a trophy in soccer, it's a very big deal. But for me, the best memory is the first game that we ever had at the East Lansing Soccer Complex. And one untold story that I will share with you from that day is we had our uniforms delivered to the field 90 minutes before kickoff.
Okay.
And so that's one of those things.
Were you nervous that they weren't going to arrive?
Nervous.
Because at that point,
now you can have things on your phone like Life 360 and track everybody.
Right.
If I would have had that, I would have been tracking the delivery driver and making sure that he was driving over the speed limit to make sure he got there on time. That one was a little scary, to be honest. And we had some practice jerseys and some things that we could do, but obviously we didn't want to put a team out there without the uniforms. But I think getting those in 90 minutes before, you can take a deep breath. And then I remember we always opened the gates an hour before kickoff. And I'd done quite a bit to market that first game, all of it on social media, no radio, no TV, no newspaper, anything like that. And to walk out a couple minutes before 6 o'clock and see the line of fans down the sidewalk I won't ever forget that.
Yeah.
Won't ever forget that. So for me, the first match still is number one.
What have you learned too then, I guess, about yourself in general? Because when you take on such a big, situation like the one that you took on in terms of bringing a brand new franchise to a city, what have you learned about yourself in that aspect? Because of maybe some of the things that you didn't know if you could ever overcome something, and now you've been able to.
A lot of perseverance, a lot of it from the very beginning, right? I mean, I had to go sell sponsorships that first year, and it was an idea. And I always joke that I was selling air because I didn't have numbers. I couldn't tell a sponsor that we would have X number of fans, an average of X number of fans at our games. I didn't have any of that. So really I was selling air. And we had a lot of other bumps and bruises along the way. We have 2 pretty successful seasons, and then we lose our head coach to what became a rival franchise because it was closer to his home. You have to hire somebody else. So there were a lot of things as we went through. And I think more than anything else, it was perseverance when things went wrong. And there were lots of things that didn't go the way that we wanted. And you just find a way to kind of fight through those and make it the best you can, and try and move on. And we had to do that several different times throughout the existence of Lansing United.
I want to go back to growing the game in a sense too in the community, because I don't think too that Lansing Common FC would really be in the situation that it's in if it wasn't for Lansing United. And Lansing Ignite being here too as well would have probably never have happened if it wasn't for the Lansing United. And so, but where do you see the state of soccer then essentially in the Lansing area right now?
I don't think it's ever as big as you want it to be. If I could go back to Ignite for a moment, I mean, we finished third in the USL League One in 2019 in attendance. And although you're in a really large baseball stadium, sometimes when we had even our bigger crowds, it didn't seem like there was many people there. And I've seen a few things I've on social media or whatnot where people are like, why won't you ever understand that people in this town don't like soccer? And that couldn't be further from the truth. Maybe there aren't enough people. And I think whether it's soccer or downtown businesses or other things, there are things that the city of Lansing has struggled to really maintain or have a great grasp on. It's better. It's certainly better than it has been, but I don't think it's where anybody wants it to be in several different factors. So, could we still have a professional franchise in Lansing? Could we? Sure, we could. There was a lot of support, and to know what we built with that franchise in the span of 5 months when we announced it to when we started playing and all the things that you have to do there, I think it continues to grow. And I think it will continue to grow. If you look at the numbers at the youth level, they continue to rise. And that, for me, is really how you show that an area is interested in something. Now, sometimes those kids get older, they go through high school, they go through college, and they move away from Lansing. But the participation at the youth level continues to increase on an annual basis. And that, for me, shows the growth of the game here in this area.
What was always the biggest hurdle then when it came to that, or maybe getting the city to understand what you were trying to build from a soccer standpoint,
with Ignite?
Yeah, with Ignite, because I felt like Lansing United had a very good base, very good following, but maybe more so with Ignite.
Yeah, I think the largest issue that we had with United and having continued success in growing a fan base, I didn't do a good enough job of giving people a reason to come out. And that sounds a little strange, but the soccer is only a piece of it, right? You have to do other things. You have to have other entertainment. You have to have other food choices to keep it fresh for people. And as I look back and say, I wish I would have done that differently, I really kind of maintained the status quo over the years. And I think the diehards are going to come for the soccer, and we have those, but you have to kind of mix it up for the general public to give them a reason to come out and check you out. And so I think continuing to build that, and I know, Lansing Common will continue to do that. They had a great promotion yesterday with Graham Couch of the State Journal, who was out there. Like, things like that are brilliant, right? You have to give people a reason to come out and see what you're doing. So I think as that grows, people will come out and do that. The other thing that soccer fans love that we were never able to offer, except for the 1 year with Ignite, was beer sales. Mm-hmm. And let's just be honest. People like to go to sporting events and professional sporting events so they can have beers.
Yeah.
I wasn't ever able to crack the code in town to find a venue where we could do that. And that would have been a tremendous driver in increasing our attendance, that one piece alone.
And it makes a lot of sense because, yes, people do when they go to sporting events. That's kind of their way to let go of anything that might be happening in their life. It's their time to, enjoy, have fun, kick back, that kind of thing. So
100%. Yep. That's the one thing. If I wish I could have waved my magic wand, that we would have been able to have some sort of beer sales.
Yeah. Well, there have been you told Nick when he was out last week that there has been some interest maybe in people picking up the mantle for Lansing United. And so could you share that with us and maybe who those people might be, or how optimistic you are that it will continue, that Women's League will continue?
I don't know if I want to get into a ton of details. That's really kind of their story to tell, to be honest. But what I can share with you is that there are two entities that have reached out to me and said, we would like more information on what you did, how you did it. Can you share some financials with me? Which I did. I want everybody to know, here's the expenses that you should understand. If you get into this endeavor, these are what the expenses look like. And so I've shared that information, and now it's really, and I've connected them with our league, the UWS, and said, look, from here, you guys kind of take it from here and see what happens. So I am optimistic, though, in having those conversations with those two different entities, that somebody, one of those two, will step up and find a way to continue the women's program. And I think, when we started that in 2018, a lot of why I did that was because of my daughter and wanting to make sure that she knew that she had the same opportunities that the guys had. And that is still near and dear to my heart. And I will do anything, and I've told both entities, I will do anything I can do to help you if you want to continue this and see the women's game continue to grow in this area. Whatever I can do to help, I will do it.
Well, since you brought that up too, this is a great moment for you, a proud moment as a dad for you, because she just committed or announced that she was going to be committing to play at Oakland University. Yeah,
my daughter Grace will be a senior at Holt in the fall. And her mom and I, her stepmom, her siblings, her step siblings, grandmas, grandpas are all incredibly proud of her. She has put in a lot of work, and she started here playing in the club area in Lansing when she was 8 years old, and her interest in the sport grew. And a couple years ago, she came to her mom and I and said, this is something I think I would like to do at the collegiate level. And we said, okay. If you want to do it, here's a roadmap. Now it's going to be a lot of work on your end to do that. And to her credit, she's put in the work. As we talked about, being a 2022 recruit has been difficult with COVID and all the different restrictions that they've been under. But excited for her, excited for the opportunity. The coaching staff at Oakland is top drawer. They do things the right way, and it's only an hour and 10 minutes from my front door. So to know that she's not too far away and will have the ability to go watch several of her games is very exciting as well. So yes, it's one of those moments that is hard to describe until you go through it. And I've reached out to some friends who have some children who have played collegiate sports, and they said, well, we know what we know what you're going through. So yes, thank you. Grace is very excited, and we're all excited to be a part of the Oakland family.
And what was one thing then that she really loved about it, and also too in guiding her in that direction, or how did you help her too when it came to making the decision?
In the decision to choose a school, really I really left that up to her. Yeah, I think the thing that she and I went through together, and I tried to offer advice as parents, we often do, even if our kids are not really looking for it.
Yeah.
Was here's a roadmap, and again I mentioned the 2022 recruiting class couldn't be seen. Division I coaches weren't able to see athletes in all the sports, so you had to be creative. You had to send a lot of emails. You had to try and make phone calls when you could, and you had to be more proactive. Instead of having coaches come to you, I told her you need to be a little bit more proactive. And to her credit, she did that and reached out to several coaches. And then when they had the ability to see her play. And then again, that part was up to her. So really, she did all of the heavy lifting. It was just that encouragement along the way, and maybe a few tips on how you can get yourself out there, because it wasn't easy not being able to be seen.
Yeah, it was difficult for a lot of people, a lot of athletes. So, yeah, kudos to her for being able to take that initiative.
Yeah, thank you. We're excited, like I said.
Yeah. Now, what's next, too, for you? Like, what's Jeremy going to be doing around town?
Well, it's a great question. I think it allows me to take a little bit of a deep breath. And when I look at all of the things that I have going on in my life, I mean, I've got a family with 2 kids and 2 stepkids who are active in sports and want to be there for them and be able to go to their games and participate in things with them. Still am doing the announcing at Michigan State, doing the public address announcing for men's basketball, which I enjoy immensely. When Ignite folded, I became an agent through U.S. Soccer, and I represent 3 soccer players, 1 female and 2 male. So keeping tabs on them, watching their games. And as I was talking to the league about, Lansing United no longer continuing, they said to me, would you be interested in maybe coming to work at the league? I said, well, maybe. I said, let's talk about that. So I don't know if that will happen or not. I know I love the game. I know I want to be involved in this area in any way that I can. And even if it's helping with Lansing Common, if there's something I can do with them, or if there's this new entity that takes over the women's side, if I can help with them, let's call it a part-time basis instead of a full-time basis. If I can make that happen, that would be perfect.
Okay. And I told you at the beginning of the show, this is the hashtag Monday Motivation Show. So I've given you about 29 minutes here to prep for a quote or a mantra or something that has helped guide you throughout your life, or it could be last season or whenever, if you point to something that you for inspiration.
I have this on my Twitter bio, and I wanted to make sure I say it accurately. Okay. But my favorite quote is, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And really, for me, that speaks to what Lansing United and what I try and make everything in my life about, and that's people. Being able to connect with them in a positive way and help them. And I think we have a lot of competitiveness in our society, and it's always we're all trying to get to the top. I use in air quotes. But really, how can we help people? How can we help others? I was never the smartest person in the room. I was just smart enough to surround myself with a lot of good people. And I think that's what leadership is. And so I always like to have people know that I care. And I think, again, as you said, reflecting back on that, when you get some of those messages from some of those people, you do understand that they knew you cared about them and you did have an impact. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, and two, that speaks to maybe why you may have gotten into broadcasting back in the day.
It did.
Somewhat, in a sense.
No question. That, and I wanted to get into sporting events for free. So those two things were perfect.
Yeah, that never hurts either.
No, not at all.
Well, Jeremy, thanks so much for coming on again today. I do appreciate it.
Audrey, it's hard to believe that a half an hour has flown by already. I appreciate the conversation, and thank you so much for everything that you did to help support Lansing United. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
I got your back. I'm always here for you.
Thank you.
Well, we're going to take a break, but when we come back, we are going to delve into last week's exciting event in Indianapolis, and that would be Big Ten Football Media Days. You're going to hear from Michigan State's Mel Tucker, Michigan's Jim Harbaugh, and the MSU players who were in attendance. They let us in on the transfers who are standing out during summer workouts. We'll see you soon.
Thinking of a new air conditioning unit for your home? Hi, Peggy Doty with Doty Mechanical. A new Carrier high-efficiency AC unit will lower your energy usage and increase your home comfort. Current Carrier Cool Cash offers and available utility rebates mean your savings have never been better.
Call Doty Mechanical today at 327-7777 or visit us at dotymechanical.com for your free estimate. For heating and cooling, the names to know, Doty Mechanical and Carrier, turn to the experts.
American automaker Ford says they're working on the launch of an autonomous vehicle fleet in partnership with Lyft. The project will make use of the Argo A1 artificial intelligence program. Ford and Lyft will begin testing this year in Miami, then expand to Austin in 2022, with plans to be up and running in multiple markets within 5 years. Warner Brothers says more than 10 new movies will be exclusively made for streaming platform HBO Max. This as the number of U.S. subscribers for HBO and HBO Max topped 47 million in the second quarter. Snapchat is continuing its strong comeback. Company officials say their number of users was up by 23% in the second quarter when compared to 2022. It's growing faster than in 2017 when it went public. Google Drive is adding the ability for users to block other accounts from sharing files with them. The hope is to prevent harassment and spam on the platform. Tech Report, James Flippin, NBC News Radio.
Trust matters, especially when it's your money. Mark and Jay at North Coast Wealth Management work hard to build a relationship of trust by providing thoughtful, objective guidance and placing your interests first. Invest with knowledgeable financial advisors who are on your side. Call today and tell them you're a friend of the show for a no-cost, no-obligation consultation. 248-626-2000 and ask for Mark or Jay. Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC.
The U.S. government is buying another 200 million doses of Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine. More young campers are testing positive for COVID-19 at an upstate New York sleepaway camp. Officials say 31 kids at Camp Pontiac in Copac are now testing positive. All are 11 and under, so they're not yet eligible for COVID shots. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio says a coronavirus vaccine blitz is underway to try to get kids vaccinated before school reopens. 25 pop-up vaccine clinics are opening. De Blasio also reports that 43% of all city kids in between the ages of 12 and 17 are now fully vaccinated, following just 9 weeks of eligibility. Health updates, Sarah Lee Kessler, NBC News Radio.
I'm Tony Cuthbert with your Spotlight Sports Update. Jorge Soler had 3 hits and hit 2 home runs as the Royals tamed the Tigers 6-1 in Kansas City. Eric Haas prevented the shutout by driving in a run in the 9th for the Tigers. Tarek Skubal gave up 5 runs over 5 innings to take the loss for Detroit, which has lost 3 straight. The Tigers visit the Twins tonight. Lions veterans will make their way to training camp tomorrow as rookies arrive to camp on Saturday. The first preseason game for Detroit is against Buffalo at home on August 13th. Draft day is almost here for the Detroit Pistons. The 2021 draft is Thursday from Brooklyn. The Pistons hold the top overall selection and have been linked to prospective top overall pick Cade Cunningham since winning the selection. And Team USA men's basketball ended a 25-game Olympic winning streak with a 83-76 loss to France. The team will play Iran on Wednesday.
Welcome back to the Audrey Dahlgren Show.
You want to win, don't you?
Well, I think I'd really rather try to beat him, honestly.
The Spotlight Radio Network.
Even though this year's Big Ten football media days in Indianapolis was Michigan State football coach Mel Tucker's first as the Spartans head coach, he said it definitely still feels like he's entering his second season at MSU due to all of the work he and his coaching staff have put in when it comes to recruiting this offseason, lifting, and getting ready for fall camp. All things that we have touched upon a number of times on this show. And by the way, fall camp does begin on August 5th, which is next Thursday. It's coming up so soon. But in Indy on Friday, when he stepped out to the stage for the very first time, you could sense the excitement in his voice as well as gratitude when he delivered his opening statement. It was a little over 15 minutes, and we're going to share it with you now.
Hello. Yeah, thanks everyone for being here. Commissioner Warren, thank you for your leadership. Thank you for running this organization in a first-class manner, and this event today is outstanding. It seems like we're finally getting back to normal, and I really appreciate that. I'm looking forward to meeting some new folks today, and I see some familiar faces out there, and it's just a great feeling. This is my first Big Ten Media Day, and so it's a dream come true for me. The Big Ten is an outstanding conference, a lot of history and tradition, a lot of great players, a lot of great coaches, and it is truly a privilege to be here. I brought 3 great young men with me today. Drew Beasley, Xavier Henderson, and Jalen Naylor. They are going to do a great job representing Michigan State University in our football program. They're just wonderful guys. They love football. They live football. But they're even better people off the field. I'm really excited about the season, and for a lot of reasons. I'm excited to finally be in Spartan Stadium with our fans. We have some of the most passionate fans in the country, and there's a lot of pent-up demand for Spartan football, and I can't wait to get in there with the fans, the band, the cheer team, Sparty, and our players feel the same way. We have gained ground in our program. Since the end of the season, our objective was to aggregate marginal gains across the board in our organization. There's coaching, support staff, players, strength and conditioning, nutrition, training room, equipment room. Everyone just get a little bit better. Okay? Everyone get a little bit better. Do your job a little bit better. Okay, and you add that up. Okay, and that's how you get better fast. And that's what we have to do. I feel the momentum in our program in every aspect. I believe that your team is built in the weight room. We made tremendous strides in our strength and conditioning. We're bigger, faster, stronger. In recruiting, we have momentum. We have 34 new players on our roster that we did not have at the end of last season. Some of those players came mid-year. Some of those guys came this summer. 15 transfers. And our roster is stronger, it's more competitive, and it's going to lead to a better brand of football. As a program, we believe in process. We believe in process. We're not focused on the outcomes. The process of things that you have to do, the behaviors that you have to exhibit day in and day out to build a winning organization, to have consistency in performance, attention to detail, sense of urgency, teamwork, togetherness, a culture of accountability. We're moving in the right direction. We've got a lot of work to do, and we're work in progress, but the process of day-to-day and cementing that culture of accountability is I feel the momentum. It's coming together. Our players can feel it. Our coaches can feel it. Our donors can feel it. They're excited, and we can't wait to get going. We stress competition at Michigan State. Compete to play, compete to stay. You either like it, you love it, you live it. If you're at Michigan State, as a player or coach, you better live it, because that's what it takes to get to where we need to go. We need to gain ground. We're behind. We're playing catch up. And the competitiveness of our roster, that has increased tremendously because of recruiting. Okay? Guys know that they're going to have to bring it each and every day, okay, in order to get on the field. And that's what we want. And guys are embracing that. They know they're getting better. Okay? They know they're going to have to compete. Okay? And we're just going to keep our head down and continue to go to work. We do have a chip on our shoulder. We really do. We've got a lot to prove. People tell me, Coach, for you, this is really like year one. No, it's not year one. It's year two. We got to get this thing moving. There's a sense of urgency in our program, in our building, and I'm excited about that. When you think about Michigan State, you think about Michigan State football, you think of tough, hard-nosed, physical, meat and potatoes, not a lot of French pastry, all-weather football. That's what Michigan State football is all about. Rugged, lunch pail. It's a working program. It's for the people. It's for the fans. There's a certain brand of football that's expected at Michigan State. We recruit to it. We coach to it. That's our culture. That's what we have to look forward to this fall. You know, culture is a process. You know, infrastructure precedes culture. We have the pieces in place, the staff, the support staff. We have the resources. We have the infrastructure that has created a winning culture, a winning mindset. Culture is everything. And when you step in our building, whether you're a recruit, you're a player, it feels different now. You can tell that we're moving in the right direction. I want to thank all of the Spartans who have welcomed me with open arms since I began February 12, 2020. It's been truly special. Michigan State is a family. It's a family atmosphere. It's always been that way. And from day one, it's been great. They've welcomed me in. Coach, we're glad you're here. We're looking forward to what you're going to bring. That's very special to me, and I appreciate that. Michigan State has been my dream job since 1997. This is not just another opportunity for me and for us in East Lansing. This is a dream come true. Okay, and we need to make it work. Our fans, our alums, 550,000 plus living alumni, our former players of Spartan Dog, they deserve the type winning football, the brand of football that they expect: tough, physical, relentless. That's what our fans deserve. That's what Spartan football is all about, and it's my job, okay, to get that done. And so we've had an off-season conditioning program, which we didn't have a year ago. We had spring practice where we gained ground, okay, and we've had an excellent summer conditioning program and to lead us up into camp, which starts in a couple of weeks. So with that, I want to thank you for what you do. Getting the word out for our players, our programs, amplifying the message. Without you, we could not do what we do. So I really appreciate all of you here, and I look forward to seeing you all and meeting you at some point. And with that, we'll open up for questions.
Pretty powerful statement by Tucker. A lot of it is what we've heard from him numerous times when it comes to Michigan State's football program ever since he was hired. But one of the big things that I found to be pretty important or something of note here is that mentioning how that they are playing catch up. And another thing was how the competitiveness has increased. We know that is true with the addition, as he mentioned, 34 new players, 15 transfers. The Spartans are going to be a whole different team this year, something that we've also known and talked about. I mean, you heard Tucker mention it there, but of those 15 transfers, who are the ones who have been standing out to their teammates during summer workouts? Because we haven't really been privy to access to practice. That'll change come next Thursday. But it's a question that we asked Xavier Henderson, Jalen Nailor, and Drew Beasley on Friday. And we'll start with Beasley's response as to who he thinks has been standing out among those transfers.
I would say Drew Jordan, the transfer from Duke. He's a guy that has a degree from Duke, and he's got a good head on his shoulders. You know, I've met his parents, and they raised him well. And he's a guy that's not only physical, strong, fast, he's also very smart. His football IQ is through the roof. You know, there's not much I've had to teach him when he first came here. You know, it's all there, and you know, he's going to be a guy that's going to help us a lot this fall for sure.
Kenneth Walker. I love the way he run the ball. I love everything about him. He's a great dude. On the field, he pushes himself. Me and him, we always, whenever we have conditioning, it's me and him always competing with each other, along with Jaden Reed. But I love Kenny's attitude, his work ethic, literally everything about him. He's going to bring some excitement to this team.
There's a lot, and I don't want to single, I will single somebody out. Quavarius Crouch is one I'm really impressed with. But there's other dudes that can go, and I'm excited. We got Ronald Williams corner from Bama. He can play. Chester from Florida. You already saw Kenneth in the spring game. Kenneth can go. And then we got freshmen like Keon and little Chuck Brantley, who might be 150 soaking wet, but if we get some weight on him, we might be able to see him out there.
So no surprise there either, I guess, as to Kenneth Walker being one of the names that was brought up as a transfer who is standing out. The running back from Wake Forest, that's where he transferred from. The other thing that's important to know about Kenneth Walker is last week he was also named to the Doak Walker Award watch list, which at the end of the year goes to the nation's top running back at the collegiate level. He's one of 82 players who is a finalist for the award going into the season. And so there is a lot of excitement surrounding him and this season at Michigan State. On Thursday, too, we also heard from Jim Harbaugh along with some seniors at Michigan. The three players who made it to Big Ten football media days for the Wolverines were Hassan Haskins, running back, Aiden Hutchinson, defensive end, and Josh Ross, linebacker. And going into media days, you knew two questions were bound to come up at some point. And that was, when is Harbaugh going to lead Michigan to a Big Ten title? And when is he also going to be Ohio State? Harbaugh is entering year 7 in Ann Arbor and has yet to do either of those. In 5 attempts, he's lost all 5 against the Buckeyes. So when he was asked about it on Thursday, he really didn't hold back, and neither did the players.
You know, to win the championship, to win beat Ohio, your hometown there. You know, our rivals, Michigan State. That's what we want to do, and we're going to do it or die trying.
It's not like we have not recognized this rivalry until this year. We've always recognized it. We've always emphasized it. We always can't wait to play Scarlet and Gray in November.
Ohio State's on our mind every day, and the way we beat them. It's not then, it's today. It's tomorrow, it's the next day. It's the days. You stack those days up and you look up, you know what I'm saying? All these days, like I've been saying, just winning those days and attacking it every single day and getting better. Look up and we in a position we want to be in, you know? And that's how we're going to do that.
They wouldn't reveal specifics when it came to the differences of how they were getting ready for Ohio State or putting more emphasis on Ohio State in terms of signage maybe that may be up in the building or, you know, things along those lines. They said, though, that there are new things that they're doing in practice. There actually was a photo leaked a while ago about signs being up in the weight room. One of them said, "What are you doing to beat Ohio State today?" There's also fresh new blood on the coaching staff. Like former running back Mike Hart is just one example, and he has been talking to the players a lot, apparently, about the UM-OSU rivalry, and the players say that that is another way they've been putting more emphasis on it is just by talking about it. A lot of the new coaching staff at Michigan has been talking about it as well. Harbaugh was also asked about all the new coaches on his staff, and this was something else he was surprisingly candid and forthcoming about.
There have been a number of new hires on the coaching staff. The thing that I think they all have in common is just what they know about football, you know, their experience, the teachers that they are, and the other thing is just how they've come together. You know, really the trust. When I sit in the defensive room and Mike McDonald, our coordinator, is talking, and there's input coming from Coach Klink and George Hilo and Sean Nua. The dialogue that's going on in the room is really tremendous. There's Coach Bellamy as well has brought so much. And nobody's afraid to talk. Nobody's afraid to put their opinion out there, and it gets batted around. I love that. There's tremendous analysts, Doug Mallory, Coach Oz, Joe Stab. It's a really good room. The GAs, Dylan and Steve. I mean, it's almost like a scrimmage, almost like the scrimmage is going on. Ideas are flowing and getting talked through, and it's a fun, exciting room. You can tell that there's trust. You can tell that there's trust in the room. Guys can speak their mind and be heard, and then they bat it around and they get to a good result. So that's been tremendous. And I see the same thing offensively too. Common question. I mean, Josh Gaddis going into his third year as the offensive coordinator, and thing I noticed most about that room, that the trust he has in the other coaches on the offensive side of the ball, and the trust that we all have in Josh, and the same kind of free-flowing dialogue, and looking at the tape, you're scheming, you're putting in ideas, but that same kind of energy, that same kind of trust, is there. Sharon Moore, coaching the offensive line, Jay Harbaugh, Mike Hart, all respected, all valued, doing a heck of a job. Matt Weiss has been a great addition, coaching the quarterbacks, and also Steve Kasula, analyst on offense. I love him. I love what he brings. Kyle Devan, what he brings. To be in those meetings, both offensively and defensively, and see the interaction, see the dialogue, see the trust has exceeded my hopes and expectations.
So as you just heard there's a lot of trust. Harbaugh must have mentioned it at least over a handful of times. Hassan Haskins, too, is another thing with him that I want to point out, is how he is developing and growing under Mike Hart being there now. He said that he is learning new things about the game and about the position that he didn't know before Mike Hart has come on staff. So that's something interesting to maybe keep your eyes on and look out for, just because Hassan Haskins is a pretty powerful back, but be curious to get a better understanding as to what he specifically, might be learning when it comes, like I said, technique. That's one thing he mentioned. He also brought up how, I guess, maybe so, just how Mike Hart approaches, or how he approached the game as a player, is something that, Haskins has learned from. And one other interesting thing, when it came to Aiden Hutchinson, when he was all alone, they did these individual podiums at Big Ten Football Media Days. And so, they had the main stage where the coaches would come up and they would give their opening press conference, opening statement, and ask these questions that you heard from Harbaugh and Tucker. And then, the players would separate off into podium scrums, essentially. We were able to interview the Michigan State players one-on-one, but for the Michigan players, they're at this podium. And Aiden Hutchinson, mentioning the rivalry with OSU, also got on the topic of Michigan State. And he brought up how he watches the film of that Michigan State UM game from this last year almost every day. And he still does not understand how they lost to MSU. He brought that up. I think if you look at the film, you'd see that Michigan State did a pretty good job when it came to rushing yards and receiving yards. And essentially, they ended up winning the game that year. It's why the Spartans are in sole possession and control of the Paul Bunyan Trophy at the moment. And we'll look to try to keep it this upcoming year, I should say. There were a lot of great things that did, come out of Big Ten Football Media Days. It's a great event, and we did learn a lot for this upcoming season. So hopefully you were able to get some insight as to what they had to say over the last couple of days. And that does it for our show today, the Hashtag Monday Motivation Show. Have a tremendous rest of the day, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Hi, this is Kristen Belzer, and I am the host of Connect with KB. I've spent my career building relationships and connecting people. My work with local and state chambers, state government, and now the life of an entrepreneur with my business, KB Collaborative. The mission of my podcast is to bring out the best in people, to highlight their accomplishments, work experiences, and to challenge them to recollect their greatest leadership and life lessons. Listeners are going to undoubtedly feel that they're having a cup of coffee with an old friend. We've got CEOs